Guest today is Dr. Anthony J. At this point, you probably know him well because I am constantly raving about him and his amazing book, Estrogeneration. This is also his second appearance with a very particular mission in mind. As you may remember from my first episode with Dr. J, he does genetics consulting, meaning he will take the raw data from genetics testing such as 23andMe, and he will interpret that data for you and help you take actionable steps to improve your health and wellness using things like lifestyle changes and or supplementation, or he'll recommend further testing or specific types of exercise. It's really unbelievable what he is able to get out of this raw data. And that's what we do here. I provided Dr. J with my raw genetics data. I did my testing with 23andMe. I also provided him with my latest copy of blood work, just really extensive blood work, including a full NMR lipid profile, a full comprehensive metabolic panel, just a whole bunch of information. And I have also made all of that available to you if you want to follow along. And I have included PDFs of both my blood work and my DNA report that I received from Dr. Anthony J. So you can actually follow along in real time if you want to and look at the same documents that Dr. Anthony J and I are looking at while having this discussion. And I must say that this episode was really eye-opening for me because I tend to look at things through the lens of epigenetics, meaning that genetics predispose, they do not predetermine. I was under the impression, and you'll hear me voice this in this episode, where I thought that epigenetics were probably 95% of the equation. I just kind of saw it as, yeah, sure, we have these genetics that we inherit, but we can change these things through epigenetics. And really optimizing for this type of DNA testing is really just the top 5%. It's the last 5% in full optimization of human health. But as you'll hear, Dr. J really sheds some light on this for me and explains to me that modern man can really be debilitated by the genetic blueprint, which is the hard DNA. You will hear him talk about the fact that I am quite lucky, that I have really good genes in most categories. And there are assuredly other people that have terrible genes in every category, in which case I would imagine that virtually no mainstream or even alternative approach to health and wellness is going to work perfectly for them. They really need something that is individualized, something that addresses their specific needs as a unique individual who may have not necessarily won the genetic lottery and really been dealt a bad hand in terms of inherited genetics. You'll also get a much deeper dive into the brilliance of Dr. J. He really understands how all of these different things work together. He views this in a holistic way and kind of sees all of these genetics and categories of genetics as interconnected. They really all have to play well with one another. And he has to take the entire picture into account before he gives any advice. And you'll hear him talk about this, particularly the fact that I have a boatload of leaky gut genes, meaning my inherited genetics put me at a much higher risk of leaky gut syndrome. You will hear Dr. J talk about how I should absolutely avoid grains at all costs. Now, if we stop and think about this, I started my own nutrition company, Clovis, based on the foundational principles of the paleo or ancestral diet, which does not include grains. Now, 7 or 8 years ago, when I made the switch to a grain-free diet, I had no idea what my genetics were. I had never tested these things. All I knew was that as soon as I removed grains from the diet, I felt astronomically better and never wanted to go back. And now, here I am, years later, just confirming what my body naturally told me, and that is that grains do not agree with me. And in particular, they do not agree with my inherited genetics. So anyway, that's just one of the many things you'll learn. We also talk about cholesterol and risk of cardiovascular disease. We talk about risk of Alzheimer's. We talk about risk of injury from exercise. We even go as far as to talk about pain tolerance and how I have an unusually high pain tolerance and a very low sensitivity to pain. Very, very interesting stuff. And I want to remind you that Dr. J does do DNA consulting, and he now also has a team of coaches who can do DNA consulting with you as well. So all you would have to do is get your hands on your raw genetic data using a service like 23andMe, and then visit ajconsultingcompany.com and click on the DNA Analysis tab, and I will, of course, link that for you in the show notes. And book a session with either Dr. J himself or one of his coaches to analyze your DNA and get some input on how to maximize your health and wellness based on your genetic data. And that's enough of my long-winded intro. I'll let you guys dig in. You are going to learn a ton in this episode. I really think you're going to love it. Feel free to hit us with your feedback. Hit up Dr. Anthony J. Let me know if you have any questions.